So my name is Jamie Walton and I'm the head grower here at Raithwaite Sands End. So I came here to take on the project of building the new kitchen garden here at Raithwaite. The brief was basically to design and build a space that was not only so that it could provide the restaurant with produce, it was also that the space could be educational and it could be a space that the guests could enjoy and interact with, and that was an important part of why the site is where it is. I mean, the hotel is moving in a far more sustainable direction. That's the whole goal here at Raithwaite, and the garden basically was one of the primary focuses of this year, moving in that direction. So the garden is here to essentially feed the on-site restaurant and bar. The garden's placement was an interesting one. When I first took on the project and they kind of explained that this is where they wanted it, I was a little bit taken aback just because of the gradient of the hill. It's more or less north facing, and also there is a car park right there. So I mean, their idea was that they wanted the space to be an area that the guests can interact with and learn from, and there's some traceability there. They can see where the produce is coming from, and the produce will be the vegetables will be in the ground, and then they'll be on the plate in the evening. So they wanted it to be a front of house area, which made things far more challenging, obviously. So we had to terrace. It was an interesting project that actually offered a few advantages that were unexpected. For example, the polytunnels, because they're terraced, was actually able to add guttering to each of the polytunnels, which meant that we're able to get the polytunnels are 15 metres each by 5 metres, which is a huge amount of catchment area for the water. So there's a water catchment system built into all 3 polytunnels, which gives us a huge amount of resilience when it comes to water collection. The whole kind of garden was built around the premise of having a very large composting section, because we want the garden to be as resilient as possible and as self-sufficient as possible, and having a large composting area was central to that, really, because we do have 80 acres here, as well as all of the organic matter byproducts from the actual kitchen garden. We also have plenty from the extra acreage we have, so that also gets put into the compost. So the idea is that going forward in the next couple of years, we'll be able to be more or less self-reliant in compost, water, and even seeds. Yeah, we do use a fair amount of kitchen waste. I mean, again, byproducts is a better word than waste. I think we use a lot of the byproducts from the kitchen. They come back up here, so it's a nice circular system that we send the things through, and anything that they can't use, although they do try and use more of the vegetable than would maybe conventionally be used. So the tops of beetroots and other things, they will send me some back, which I then add to the compost. Once the garden was set up, the beds were full, and guests started interacting with the space. That was really exciting. The first 6 months of this project, I kind of lived the project, really, and not a lot happens. A lot happens in that time frame, but not a lot of growing happens in that time frame. And I was trying to juggle building the site as well as ensuring that we had a full season, and that we were able to grow an array of things. So yeah, once that kind of culminated in the garden being full this year, and then a lot of the produce going to the kitchen, and also guests interacting with the space and being able to see where the things they're eating in the restaurant have come from. It was really interesting. It's all no dig. Even the terracing was all done by hand, so there was no machinery involved. So all no dig practices. Mulching is generally all we do. Compost could be leaf mold, organic straw mulch, or even seaweed. We only use no dig practices. Pest pressure has been a bit of an issue, only because it's a newly established garden. But to be honest, it's already finding its balance. We're finding obviously that no dig is really helping the soil regenerate, because it was in a bit of poor condition, and strengthening the plants, which is helping to deter the pests. Also, companion planting, interplanting is a practice that we employ here. So the beds are as densely packed as possible with a variety of plants, and that obviously helps with keeping the pests at bay. part of the kind of brief when designing and building the space was that it would be an educational space and it would be a space that people can enjoy and also learn from. So it was important for me to add in certain elements that were experimental and potentially educational. So the polyculture bed, as well as there's essentially a demonstration bed that's veg in one bed, coined by Hugh Richards, I think, is approximately the size of an average yard or garden space that somebody could have. And just to show the amount of vegetables and the amount of produce that can be generated from that kind of space. But the polyculture bed has been particularly interesting because there's such a diverse array of plants within that one space. I've actually found that space, that area, the soil health is building so quickly within that space. Because we built the garden no dig, so we used mulching to cover the lawn that was here prior. We had quite an issue with wireworm, which was something we didn't necessarily anticipate. They came through, and the only vegetation was the plants that I'd planted, so it had a bit of an issue with those. Other than that, really, there's not really been anything that hasn't kind of worked. I mean, the compost bays were interesting. Trying to build those on the hill, had to build a bit of a platform which kind of fell down at one point, and then we eventually managed to get it to where it is now. Well, I mean, it's a beautiful place to turn up and work. A lot of deer here and rabbits, and they really aren't shy, so they will come and help themselves if left unchecked. I mean, even with the fences that we have, they will jump them, and we often find hoof prints here and there throughout the garden. So we'll check that there's no real issues, and then we'll do some harvesting for the kitchen. So we'll go through, ask the kitchen if there's anything they specifically need and or require for that day, and then from there we'll kind of go and harvest whatever they need, take it through, and then just get on with the kind of day's tasks, really. The coming season, we're aiming to kind of consolidate what we're doing here. So we'll start to build more of a collaboration between the garden and the chefs, the kitchen. And also we've got plans to develop a hotbed system, a site just behind, where we'll be able to produce throughout the colder months. So that's a really exciting project that we're taking on this coming season. We've planted a forest garden this year, which over the coming years will develop nicely. And also we're kind of considering the prospect of breaking ground on another site within the grounds that's far flatter than this section here, so it'd be a far easier prospect and be more of a kind of a production area, as opposed to this kind of it is productive and it has to be productive, but also one of its primary functions is it just being a space that the guests can learn from and interact with. The no-dig beds have basically been designed around what's becoming a market garden standard of around 75 centimetres to a 30 centimetre pathway. Obviously that was interesting, trying to fit that around the framework of a terrace garden, but I think it worked out pretty nicely. There's been the odd time where I've nearly tripped and fallen into the bed below, but I haven't done it yet. Cross my fingers. But I think that it actually visually adds something to the space, as well as allowing us to maximise the growing space within the garden. But having the beds terraced in such a way, I mean, it was a lot more work to first establish the beds, but obviously because they're no dig, there's very little work ongoing. So all we'll do is add a small amount of compost every year, and then sometimes grass clippings or straw mulch or whatever else. But that's all that it'll require. But I think the actual terrace beds do add something visually. So when you approach it, the car park, because of the gradient of the land here, the beds kind of stack up on one another, and they do add something visually, I think, to the space. And that's also kind of I bear that in mind when planting. So I'm thinking about the growing height of each plant, so that you're able to see as many of the plants as you can within the terrace system. Didn't quite work out with the Aztec broccoli. Yeah, it was definitely a challenging first year, having a drought and kind of one of the driest summers in maybe 20 odd years was fairly challenging, considering it was the first year that we established the garden. But employing the no-dig method really helped with that. And I mean, supporting the soil and the life within it, such as the mycorrhizal fungi and the fungal filaments, interacting and creating a symbiotic relationship with the plant roots, then enables them to kind of handle drought much better. And I think the whole garden was designed around resilience. So having stored water really helped. Mulching really helped. So grass clippings and straw mulch really helped. And the wood chip in the pathways definitely helps retain the moisture. So as well as composting everything that we can and creating our own compost to mulch the beds, I also grow a lot of green manure. Some of that we just cut and then add to the compost. But a lot of the time, if a bed is out of action, we'll use green manures, or if there's taller growing plants within the bed, we often use things such as daikon radish or whatever else to undersow. So using the green manures is a way that we can add our own fertility without having to bring it in from anywhere else. So with using green manures as well as the composting system that we have, we shouldn't have to bring in any fertility. We should be able to create the fertility that the garden needs ourselves, which is our aim.
A big thank you to Gardena for supporting the Inspiring Garden series.